August 5, 1962. A phone rings in a house in Brentwood, California. No one answers. By morning, the most famous woman on earth is gone. 36 years old. Millions of dollars in film contracts. A face known in every country on the planet. And she died alone. How does that happen? How does the most desired woman in the world end up completely by herself? Because to answer that, we have to go back. Back before the name Marilyn Monroe existed at all. Back before the platinum hair. Before the whispered voice. Before the world decided it owned her. We have to go back to a scared little girl who just wanted somewhere to belong. Her name wasn't Marilyn. Not at first. She was born Norma Jeane Mortenson in a charity ward in Los Angeles in June of 1926. Her father was never in the picture. Not even his name was certain. Her mother, Gladys, worked as a film negative cutter, splicing together the movies of the same Hollywood stars her daughter would one day outshine. For a while, it seemed like an ordinary, difficult childhood. Poor, unstable, but survivable. Then it wasn't. Gladys struggled with severe mental illness, a condition that ran in the family, one that would haunt Norma Jeane for the rest of her life. When Norma Jeane was still a small child, her mother was institutionalized. And just like that, the little girl had no one. She bounced between foster homes and an orphanage. 8 placements, maybe more. The records aren't perfectly clear, and that uncertainty says something on its own. Some homes were kind. Some were not. In at least one, she later said, she experienced sexual abuse as a child. She grew up learning one lesson early, a lesson that would define everything that came after. Nothing is permanent. Not a home. Not a parent. Not safety. At 16, she married a neighbor named James Doherty. Not out of love. Not really. It was that. Or another orphanage.
GI clothing as she meets the boys. No GI ever got such attention.
Imagine that story ending there. A forgotten girl. A quiet, unremarkable life in the suburbs of Los Angeles. But then, in 1944, while her husband was away serving in the war, Norma Jeane took a job at a factory, assembling parts for military drones. And one day, a photographer arrived, documenting women who'd stepped into the workforce to support the war effort. He handed her a rifle for a photo. He asked her to smile. And the camera did something to her. Or maybe, she did something to the camera. Because the moment that lens found her face, everything changed. Within weeks, she was signed to a modeling agency. Within a year, she'd left the factory behind entirely. Within a few more, she'd have a screen test, and a new name waiting for her. By 1946, she'd signed her first studio contract with 20th Century Fox. But a studio contract in that era wasn't just a job offer. It was a transformation. Studios in the golden age of Hollywood didn't just launch careers, they manufactured entire identities. And Norma Jeane Mortenson was, in their eyes, raw material. They dyed her light brown hair a dazzling platinum blonde. It was constructed, rehearsed, perfected. They picked a new name from a list, inspired partly by a Broadway actress named Marilyn Miller. Norma Jeane Mortenson was erased. In her place, Marilyn Monroe. It worked. It worked almost too well. Her early roles were small, bit parts, background faces easy to miss. But by the early 1950s, something shifted. Audiences couldn't look away. She wasn't just an actress anymore. She was becoming a phenomenon. Gentlemen prefer blondes. How to Marry a Millionaire. Niagara, a film so provocative for its time that critics debated whether it was even appropriate to release. And then, in 1955, The 7-Year Itch, featuring one single image that would outlive the film itself. A white dress. A subway grate. A gust of wind. That photograph is still recognized, instantly, more than 70 years later. Most people who've seen it couldn't name the movie it came from. That's how powerful the image of Marilyn had become. Bigger than any single film, bigger than any single performance. Studios don't build stars because they love them. They build stars because stars make money. And Marilyn made them a fortune. Some of her films were among the highest-grossing releases of the decade. But here's the part most people don't know, the part that gets buried under the platinum hair and the breathy voice. While the world saw glamour, she was fighting, quietly, persistently, to be taken seriously. She enrolled in acting classes at the prestigious Actors Studio in New York, studying under the legendary coach Lee Strasberg, the same teacher who trained some of the most respected actors of the century. She wanted meaningful roles, complex characters, not just the blonde. In 1954, she did something almost no actress had ever done. She started her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, giving her more creative control and a larger share of her own profits. It was a radical, almost defiant move in an industry built to keep its stars dependent. Because she wasn't just beautiful. She was smart, observant, driven. She read voraciously, Dostoevsky, Whitman, philosophy, poetry. She wanted, desperately, to be more than a poster on a teenager's wall. But the industry didn't want more. It wanted the fantasy it had built. It wanted the character, not the woman underneath it. And that's where the cracks begin. By her mid-20s, Marilyn Monroe belonged to the public. Not metaphorically. Legally, financially, emotionally. She belonged to a machine that profited from every version of her except the real one. Studios controlled her image, her schedule, her contracts. Tabloids controlled her narrative, printing whatever sold the most copies, true or not. And underneath all of it, Norma Jeane was still there. Still that little girl who'd learned, over and over, that nothing lasts. Her marriages tell that story better than anything else. First came Joe DiMaggio, the legendary baseball star, in 1954. He loved her, genuinely, by most accounts. But he couldn't stand sharing her with the world. He resented the fame, the photographers, the roles that put her body on display for millions of strangers. Their marriage lasted less than a year. Then, in 1956, she married playwright Arthur Miller, a serious, respected intellectual, a Pulitzer Prize winner. Many people, including Marilyn herself, hoped this marriage would finally be different. That he would see her, not the image plastered across magazine covers. For a while, it seemed to work. She moved to New York. She stepped back from some of the Hollywood machinery. She and Miller seemed, publicly, like a genuine partnership of equals. But that marriage collapsed too, worn down over 5 years by affairs, by mounting pressure, by a spotlight that simply never, ever turned off. During this period, she also suffered multiple miscarriages, a private grief made unbearably public, dissected by gossip columns with no regard for what she was actually going through. Because here's the cruel irony sitting at the center of Marilyn Monroe's entire life. The more people loved Marilyn, the lonelier Norma Jeane became. She once said something that stuck with people for decades, that fame is like fickle food. Delicious, intoxicating, for one single moment. And then it leaves you hungrier than you were before you ever tasted it. By the early 1960s, the woman who lit up movie screens around the world was privately, quietly falling apart. Chronic insomnia, crippling anxiety, a growing dependence on prescription sedatives just to sleep at night, a common, tragically normalized practice among stars of that era, when barbiturates were prescribed with almost no oversight. She was hospitalized more than once for exhaustion. She sought psychiatric treatment, at a time when doing so still carried enormous stigma, especially for a public figure whose entire brand was built on flawless, effortless charm. In 1962, during production of what would become her final film, Something's Got to Give, she was repeatedly absent from set, sometimes due to illness, sometimes due to what colleagues described as overwhelming exhaustion. Eventually, the studio fired her outright, publicly branding her unreliable. The tabloids called her difficult, temperamental, a diva who couldn't be bothered to show up. No one asked why. No one asked what it costs a person to carry the weight of being everyone's fantasy, every single day, for over a decade. without a single moment of being allowed to simply be tired, or sad, or human. In the summer of 1962, Marilyn Monroe was, by every account from those closest to her, exhausted. Not just physically. Somewhere deeper. She'd just been publicly fired from her film. Her marriage to Arthur Miller had ended the year before. Her connection to the powerful and politically influential Kennedy family, long documented, though often exaggerated and distorted by decades of tabloid speculation, added yet another layer of scrutiny to a life that was already drowning in it. She moved into a modest house in Brentwood, smaller, quieter, more private than anything she'd owned before. Some who knew her said it felt like she was finally trying to build something stable. Something that was truly, simply, hers. Friends who visited in her final weeks describe her in almost contradictory terms. At times, hopeful, talking enthusiastically about future film projects, personally overseeing renovations to her new home, even reportedly negotiating to return to the very studio that had just fired her. But others noticed something else, something quieter and harder to name. A restlessness that wouldn't settle. A sadness that never fully lifted, even in her lightest moments. She was seeing her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, multiple times a week, an unusually intensive treatment schedule that reflected just how seriously her mental health had deteriorated. She was taking prescribed sedatives to manage her anxiety and chronic insomnia, medications that, at high doses, are dangerous even under careful medical supervision. On the night of August 4, 1962, her last night, she spoke with several people by telephone. Nothing about those calls, according to the people who received them, suggested she was planning to say goodbye forever. But sometime in the early hours of August 5, her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, noticed a light still on beneath Marilyn's bedroom door, well past midnight. Growing concerned, she eventually called Dr. Greenson. When the door was finally opened, Marilyn was found unresponsive in her bed. She was pronounced dead in the early morning hours. The Los Angeles County Coroner's official ruling, probable suicide, caused by acute barbiturate poisoning. Not a scandal invented for headlines. Not a shadowy mystery designed to sell magazines for the next 60 years. A woman in profound, prolonged pain, who ran out of ways to survive it. When the news broke, the world stopped. Grown men wept openly in the streets. Newspapers around the globe ran her photograph on their front pages, in dozens of languages, within hours. In some places, flags reportedly flew at half-mast, an extraordinary tribute for a woman who held no political office, no formal title. Just a movie star who had somehow become something far bigger than that word could ever hold. Because here's the hard, uncomfortable truth sitting at the center of Marilyn Monroe's story. The world worshipped an image, and left the actual person to fend for herself. She had assistants, publicists, doctors, lawyers, millions upon millions of adoring fans who would have done almost anything for a single photograph, a single autograph, a single moment of her attention. But in the moments that mattered most, the quiet, private, 3 in the morning moments, she didn't have someone simply asking, gently, "Are you okay?" That's the tragedy underneath the tragedy. Fame surrounded her with people. Constantly. Relentlessly. But it never gave her a single person who saw her. Not the icon, not the sex symbol, not the brand that generated millions of dollars for studios and magazines and merchandise. Just Norma Jeane. The scared little girl who never stopped waiting for somewhere, and someone, to truly belong to. More than 60 years later, Marilyn Monroe is still absolutely everywhere. Her face appears on posters, t-shirts, coffee mugs, museum walls, and murals spanning entire city blocks. She remains one of the most instantly recognized women who has ever lived, an image endlessly reproduced, endlessly consumed. And yet, how many people who admire that image actually know her real story? The foster homes. The mother she rarely got to see. The 8, maybe more, houses she passed through as a child, never once given the chance to feel settled. The loneliness she carried, quietly, behind every practiced smile on every film set. Marilyn Monroe's story isn't really about Hollywood, not at its core. It's about something far more universal, something that reaches well beyond the world of movie stars and studio contracts. It's about how a person can be surrounded by millions of admirers and still feel completely invisible. How outward success can look like absolutely everything a person could ever want, while quietly failing to fill the parts of them that ache the most. She once said she believed everything happens for a reason, even the hardest, most painful things a person can endure. Whether or not that belief brought her any real comfort in the end, we simply cannot know. What we do know, what the historical record makes painfully clear, is this: her pain was real. Her loneliness was real. And it deserved far more attention, far more compassion, than it ever received. While she was still here, still alive, still able to receive it. Marilyn Monroe taught the world how to dream in black and white, and later in vivid color. In laughter, in music, in that unmistakable, unforgettable smile that still stops people in their tracks decades after her death. But underneath the icon was a woman who spent her entire life searching for one thing that fame, money, and adoration could never actually give her: the simple experience of feeling truly, safely, completely seen. Her story is a powerful reminder that pain doesn't always look like pain from the outside. Sometimes it wears perfect makeup. Sometimes it smiles brilliantly for the camera. Sometimes it's the loudest, most captivating laugh in the entire room. If this story touched you, share it with someone who may need to hear it. And if you or someone you love is struggling with depression or emotional pain, please remember, asking for help is not weakness. And no matter how lonely life may feel, in this moment or any other, you are never truly alone. Leave a comment and tell us how Marilyn's story made you feel. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful untold stories.